Hi everyone, welcome to A Muggle's Guide to Hogwarts, where we are exploring the Harry Potter series with the ultimate Muggle, someone who has never read the books, never seen the movies, and never wanted to until I asked her to. She's here with us right now. Her name's Becki.
It's me.
It's Becki. Man, we're getting through this book. Right now we're reading through Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, widely regarded as one of the best Harry Potter books.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're getting into the thick of it now. We're getting to the good stuff.
Yeah.
It's starting to pick up. Last week, this past week, we read chapters 13, 14, and 15 of the book. Last week, Becki made her predictions for those chapters. So we're going to go through them now, talk about them, see if she was right, if she was wrong. And then later on, Becki's going to make her predictions for the next 3 chapters. We only have like 3 more episodes after this.
No, it's crazy.
It's coming to a close.
Yeah.
You just want to jump into it?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's do it. So chapter 13 was called Gryffindor versus Ravenclaw.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's pretty obvious what
I wonder what's going to
chapter.
happen. I think I predicted that, it would be a big game, but it's not the final.
Not the final.
Between Gryffindor and Ravenclaws, and that the Dementors would show up and Harry would have to use his newly acquired Patronus charm.
Right. And
That's
pretty much what happens.
That's pretty much what happens. Ish. I mean, I had predicted some other weird stuff, like it was going to put a bubble of protection over everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a really big focus on Quidditch this book.
Yeah.
More so than the other 2 books so far.
Yeah. I think so.
Especially because in this one, I guess it's Oliver Wood's last year, so this is his one chance to actually win the Quidditch Cup. And at the beginning, they lose to Hufflepuff because Harry falls off his broom, so they have to win. There's only a few ways in which they can win. The win conditions are very specific, and so there's a much more of a focus on that. But also, I think everyone wants them to win because it's Oliver Wood's last year.
Yeah. And there are definitely detailed play-by-plays of everything that's happening in a little more detailed than I feel like there has been since we first learned the sport or whatever.
Totally.
And he has his new shiny firebolt, so that's a big part of it too. But yeah, so at the beginning of this chapter, Ron and Hermione are still fighting. It's getting their fighting is getting worse and worse. They can't stand each other anymore. They're kind of ignoring each other, but...
Yeah, because at the end of the last one, it's assumed that Crookshanks ate Scabbers, right?
Yeah.
There was a big blood stain on Ron's sheets or something.
Yeah.
And Scabbers is nowhere to be found, so they assume that Scabbers was eaten up.
But we know that didn't happen.
Well, we don't know that.
Okay.
You're going to be so surprised when Scabbers is dead.
I'll be like, oh.
That was it. He's never going to be mentioned again. Totally dead.
Right.
So they're having a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, we have the first game with the firebolt.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exciting. We also have Harry's first crush.
Oh, yeah.
Introduced.
Uh-huh. What do you remember her name?
Cho Chang.
Cho Chang from the Ravenclaw team.
Yeah, and it's one sentence. It's he felt something that wasn't a stomach ache. And then they
it's
move on.
Harry noticed that she was very pretty.
Yeah. This is kind of cute, kind of fun. And then what do you know? The Dementors show up. And
kind of.
Harry casts his Patronus spell, but they weren't Dementors.
They weren't Dementors.
Oh my gosh, we're all fooled.
Oh, they got everyone. Tricked me for sure.
Definitely. It's crabs on top of Goyle or something silly like that. Like monkeys in a trench coat.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're in the Patronus cloaks.
Yeah. Patronus cloaks?
Nope.
Dementor cloaks?
That's the one?
Yeah. Patronus cloak would be interesting. So Harry's chasing after the snitch, and then he sees them, and then without even thinking, he like turns and casts the spell,
Right.
and it's a beautiful Patronus, and
Doesn't
then
that
he
just mean
catches
like
it and
a
wins.
wisp of smoke, though?
So far, it's been like kind of a silvery barrier that kind of shoots out
Yeah.
at them.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was that. And he catches the snitch.
Yeah. And then at the end, Ron wakes up screaming, right? Because somebody was over him with a knife and he was sure it was Sirius Black.
Right.
And they're trying to figure out, and then whoever it was escaped out the window. And they're trying to figure out how they got into the Gryffindor Tower. And they're like, who wrote down the whole list of passwords? And it's Neville. And so whoever had picked it up or whoever he wrote it for had just used the password to get in.
It was Neville, the character that you're the most confused by.
I am pretty confused by him. I feel like he plays a role in the plot in this book, even though we don't know what it is yet, because they're kind of making like a Neville Peter Pettigrew correlation.
Okay.
So
that's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And then at the end of this, I think Harry and Ron kind of both had the same question, like, why didn't Sirius Black just kill Ron? Like, if he is at the wrong bed and like pulls back the cover, what is the
comforter?
What's
bedspread?
The thing that goes around a bed?
Bed skirt?
No, that's like covers the view, so it's like a privacy area.
Oh, like a canopy?
Sure. Is that what it's, is that what the name is?
Like a canopy
it's like
bed?
a 4-poster bed that has a thing around it.
Yeah.
What is that called? A canopy?
Canopy.
Okay. He pulls back the canopy and he sees that Ron's there and not Harry. Why didn't he just kill Ron before Ron could like shout?
Because it probably wasn't Sirius Black.
Anyway, so they think about that for a little bit.
They ponder it.
They ponder on that.
Yeah. I also like how they asked Sir Cadogan, like, did you open the whatever? And he's like, yes.
Certainly, sir. Of course. He had the password. All of them.
Yeah. All of them. Yeah. He messed up. Yeah, that was it.
That was, Gryffindor versus Ravenclaw. They won, in case anyone was wondering. They won that match. And so now they go into the final, which is in a little bit. The next chapter is probably the most important one in these 3 chapters, I think.
Okay.
Snape's Grudge. So chapter 14 is called Snape's Grudge. And I kind of forget how this starts, but like, isn't Harry... There's another Hogsmeade Day, right?
Yeah. There's another Hogsmeade Day, and they're like, oh, we can just use a secret passage. Like, no one knows about it yet, and this is great. And Hermione's like, I'm going to tell on you if you do that. Yeah. And they're like, WTF, Hermione. Like, WTF? You used to be cool.
Yeah, because Ron's going... I guess Ron and Hermione are going, but they're still arguing. They're not really together. So Ron's going, and Harry's just like, I'll meet you there. And Hermione's like, don't, I'm going to tell because you're in trouble. Do you think, so is that like a good friend move or a bad friend move?
I think in this case, it's a good friend move because Hermione is kind of having a mental breakdown. But I think it's going to be revealed later that she just like, because we kind of know she's time traveling, she just knows too much. Like she knows things and she's really trying to protect her friends.
You think she knows more than they do?
Yeah.
Because she's been time traveling?
Yeah.
Interesting. And so because she knows more, why doesn't she just tell them then?
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that breaks the spell somehow, or like they wouldn't believe her or something.
Because clearly, like, Ron is like, you're being a bad friend. Why would you stop him from going to a cool place? But she's like, I'm stopping him because I want to make sure he doesn't die.
Right.
I think it's a good friend move.
It is. It's a tough one, though, because you
Yeah.
want to be supportive of your friends, but if you
Entirely.
think they're going to die, it's a good time to not be supportive of them.
Yeah.
just, my personal opinion.
So Harry's like about to sneak out using
Yeah.
the Marauders map, and then he runs into Neville, and he has to like give Neville the slip because Neville got in trouble, right, for having the list of passwords
For just being a dummy.
because he's kind of dumb. And so Harry's like, I have to do homework. And he's like, great, you can help me too. And it's like, oh, wait, no, I already did the homework. I forgot.
He's like, great, you can help me instead.
And then they go back to the common room and Harry's like, oh, I forgot something. And just like runs away.
What a terrible friend.
So Harry escapes, goes to Hogsmeade and he brings his invisibility cloak, which is important.
Well, Snape is there too, right?
Snape, yeah, I think Snape meets both Harry and Neville when they're like near the area. And that's why they go back to the common room.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, because he's scared of Snape being there later. So Snape was established in that hallway.
Yeah.
He's like, this is a weird place to meet, which made me think that Snape knew about the secret passage. Like, that he was trying to get it out of them because he's like, why would you meet here? And they're like, we didn't meet. We just both happen to be here right now. It's not weird. Harry goes to Hogsmeade, but with the invisibility cloak. And I thought he was just going to use it to like go through the tunnel or to get to the secret passage. I didn't realize that he was just going to like parade around Hogsmeade with the invisibility cloak, but that's what he did.
He wore it the entire time.
Yeah.
It's a big cloak, apparently. I mean, he is only 13.
You gotta have
you
have to like not hit anyone, I assume. And what is Ron doing? Just like talking to air?
Yep. That's exactly what he's doing.
Right. So they go to the candy store.
Honeydukes.
What's Zonks?
Zonkos.
Zonkos.
That's like the joke shop.
The joke shop. Yeah. And then they go to the Shrieking Shack.
The Shrieking
which is the most haunted place in all of Britain.
Yeah, it's like a local legend, right?
Mm.
They go there and they're having a conversation, and then
Malfoy,
Crabbe, and Goyle show up.
Yeah.
Making fun of Ron because he's poor or something.
Yeah.
It's always related to him being poor.
Yeah, it's a really dumb thing to make fun of someone for.
Yeah.
And they get splattered with mud in the face.
Out of nowhere. Where did that mud come from?
I know.
And then Malfoy sees Harry's like floating head because Harry trips over.
Well, someone steps on the edge of the blanket, so it falls down a little bit.
Yeah.
And then his head is there, which is funny.
And then they both like make a mad dash to get back to the school.
Yeah.
Essentially. Harry's running
like,
back through. Malfoy's running back. Harry's running back. So Harry gets back to the school, back to the passageway, and as he's exiting, he drops this invisibility cloak.
Yeah, he leaves it because he's worried Snape might still be kind of like lurking around since he was so suspicious and doesn't want to get caught with it.
Yep.
Oh, it's a dangerous move to leave something invisible lying around.
Well, I don't think that
even in a
I don't think
passage.
the cloak's invisible when it's not being worn.
It's semi-transparent, right? It has like a silvery, like the way they describe it the
probably
first
hard
time.
to see.
Yeah, it's like mostly invisible, but if it hits the light a certain way, there's like a silvery glint to it. But I don't think it like looks like a quilt or anything.
Okay. But then Snape finds him. And he's like,
Malfoy said he saw your head.
Yeah, what was your head doing in Hogsmeade?
If your head's in Hogsmeade, the rest of you must have been there.
It's a good Snape.
Thank you. Good practicing. And so, yeah, Harry kind of gets in trouble, and then Snape finds the Marauders map in his pocket.
Right, he's like, empty your pockets.
Empty your pockets.
And
it's like, what's this? It's some parchment. Yeah, I see that.
yeah, and this is kind of funny because, you know, it looks like parchment unless you know the spell, right? And so he's telling Snape it's parchment. And immediately 2 people come to back his lie up, which is interesting.
Mhm.
Like Lupin comes and is like, yeah, that is parchment. And then Ron comes around the corner like 2 seconds later and he's like, I got it from a joke shop. Like just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Which is weird. It's like, honestly, like Ron's not that bright. Like how did he like put all of that together and know what was happening and know what to say?
J.K. Rowling really needed Harry to not be in trouble at this point.
I guess so.
Because Lupin gets called in, and I don't even know why Snape would call Lupin really, but Snape calls for Lupin to be like, tell me what this is. And Lupin's like,
Oh, because he
It's
said
a joke.
because it's a
parchment.
because he's the defense against the dark arts, and he's like, this is a
Yeah.
enchanted with dark arts.
Yeah. But like Snape is also really into the dark arts.
Yeah,
So
he probably would have handled that himself. You're right.
anyway, Harry gets off, but he finds out that Lupin knows what the map is. Like Lupin's like, I know this is a map. I know these people that made the map. And he confiscates the map. He's like, it's too dangerous for you to have. And he makes Harry feel super bad. Because like Snape was scalding him for not following the rules that were set for him. Of like, don't leave the school and stuff. And Harry's like, fuck, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lupin basically does the same thing. And he's like, I thought you would know better than this after hearing your mom die over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
When you're near Dementors, I would have thought you would have been a little bit more cautious about going outside and endangering your life when so many people are trying to save you.
Yeah.
And it makes Harry feel really bad.
He kind of should. Like, why is he putting himself in this position when all of these people who care about him are like, hey, stop?
Yeah.
I don't know. He's
Character flaw.
meddlesome.
Meddlesome. We meddle.
Okay.
Wait, and then there's one more thing that happens in this chapter, right?
At the very end.
At the very end.
Yeah. Hermione comes over and she's like, Hagrid lost his trial and they're going to kill Buckbeak.
Yeah.
Very sad.
We learn that basically Hermione's been helping Hagrid this entire time.
Yeah.
With his trial, and they, Ron and Harry, completely forgot to do anything to help Hagrid.
Yeah.
And Hermione, on top of all of her other classes, has been going to Hagrid and helping him and giving him resources. And Hagrid scolds them, right? I think it's in this chapter. Maybe it's in the previous one. Hagrid like scolds them for not being a good friend to Hermione because she's doing everything she can to help him on top of everything. And they like are completely ignoring her.
Yeah, they're just mad at her. And then it kind of seems like Harry's taking Ron's side, and so that like isolates her even more.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad.
And Hagrid lost the trial, and so Buckbeak, there's like going to be an appeal, but essentially they all think that Buckbeak's going to be killed or something.
Executed, I think it said.
Executed.
Which is very sad.
So that's how the chapter ends.
Everything right now feels like all over the place, like very random. And I am hopeful that all of this will come together and like mean something at the end.
You know, we were just talking about this last night, actually, is this one is tough because there's so many moving pieces. It's more complex than the first 2 books. And like going through this while you're making predictions, it's tough to see where these pieces fit together.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to predict what's going to happen too, because it's seemingly random up until this point. You know, there's not a lot of sure connections between all these things.
Right.
So it is, there's a lot going on.
There is. I mean, I see some like through lines of, I've talked a lot about like the madness and the lunacy and the crazy and kind of like mental disorder that is going on. There's also just a lot of animal stuff in this one, even from the very beginning with the owls and the Crookshank. Like, didn't this whole book start with the 3 owls chapter?
The 3 owls
that
chapter.
bring bring different messages.
Yeah.
That's the very beginning of this
That's the
book.
very
And then there's a
beginning,
lot of animal themes while they're in Diagon Alley.
Mm-hmm.
And I forgot the name for a second if you couldn't tell.
You got it.
Okay.
Real quick.
Yeah, there's just a lot of animal themes.
On top of everything else that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last chapter is chapter 15, is called The Quidditch Final. And it's pretty obvious what's happening in this chapter too, but it starts off with something kind of unexpected, I think. It's divination class, right?
It starts off with Hermione disappearing before some other class.
Charms.
Yeah.
Right. So Hermione's like following Ron and Harry, and they go to Charms class. They're late.
Right.
And then
But
Hermione
she just like
disappears.
isn't there anymore and
Mhm.
isn't there for all of class, and she like has never missed a class.
Mhm.
So but that gets over pretty quickly, and I think they get to their next
Then
class.
they go to divination.
Yes. Yeah.
This is basically when Hermione has had enough. They're doing crystal ball gazing. They
Yeah.
move past palmistry. They move past tea leaf reading.
Yeah.
And they're on to crystal gazing. And they're looking into these crystal balls that just have smoke inside of them. They're not seeing anything. And then Trelawney comes over and sees the Grim and Harry's. And that was enough for Hermione. And she's like, what are you talking about? You're so dumb. This isn't real.
Mhm.
And Trelawney just like really insults her.
Yeah, she goes off on her.
She's like, you never had the gift. You're incapable. You have such a
Uh-huh.
mundane mind.
Ugh, which is the worst thing you get to say to Hermione.
And Hermione's like, I'm done, bitch. And then walks out.
Yeah. She's like, done with that. Ooh, yeah, that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you just like decide to stop going to a class? I guess you drop it or you fail, but
she has so many classes. I'm sure she can just drop it. Who knows how school
yeah.
actually
How does the
works.
registrar at Hogwarts work? I need answers.
They do later on in the series. There's like a class selection because later on, they actually point out where the students are working with their head of house to like figure out what they want to do with their life later and like what kind of career path they want, and then they select classes to help lead them there. They're not there yet because they're just in the third year, so they haven't really talked about how it works. But there is like a class selection process, and
Gotcha.
I guess you can drop out whenever you want.
It seems like that. So yeah, that happened pretty quickly. But then the main part of the chapter is the Quidditch final.
Quidditch final, and this is a pretty intense final. They go into a lot of detail about it
Yeah.
because Gryffindor has to be up by 50, like at least 50 points,
Right.
before Harry catches the snitch
Right.
in order to win the whole thing.
To win the cup. Yeah.
So it's a wild match. Everyone's beating each other up like physically.
Oh yeah, they were like, it was like unhinged.
Yeah.
People were just like playing really dirty,
Mm-hmm.
which, yikes.
Yeah, literally everyone is like pounding each other, beating each other up. Lots of injuries, lots of fouls. And at one point, Harry's like going to catch the snitch, and Malfoy grabs his broom and stops him from being able to fly, just like pulls back the broom. And Madame Hooch was like, that's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
But they win.
Yeah, there's also all of a sudden like penalty shots, which I don't ever remember before.
I'm not sure if there have been penalty shots.
Yeah, so there's and you know, they have to be up by a certain amount of points, and so it's going back and forth, and then Malfoy almost gets the snitch, but Harry's firebolt is faster.
Which I have an issue with this. Like, how can you play a sport where you allow things that are essentially objectively better? Like Harry's broom is objectively better than every other broom on the Quidditch pitch because it is faster, it's more agile, it's more sleek, it's more aerodynamic.
Right.
How is that allowed on the field with all these other brooms that are clearly worse?
Yeah, that would be similar to like, I guess, a rich kid having the best whatever, so clearly having the advantage. Yeah, I don't know.
It's just
So you think it should all
it's a
be
huge
like
advantage.
standardized?
There should be a standard. Yeah, maybe there's like a range of brooms that are allowed. Or maybe there's like some kind of cutoff standard of like you can't have a broom that is this fast or something for this level. I assume at like professional Quidditch level, everyone has the best brooms all the time.
Sure.
But like for this level, like youth Quidditch, it's just like a huge advantage. I don't know.
Huh.
Weird to me.
It is kind of strange.
We forgot about one thing. Oh, so anyway, Harry catches the snitch. How about that? And
Crazy.
They win the cup. Everyone's like, oh my goodness, we won the
Oliver
cup.
is sobbing.
He can't handle it.
Harry says it would be a very happy memory for a Patronus spell.
Right. He could use that as a huge happy memory.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing that we forgot to mention is before the Quidditch match, like the night before, Harry's trying to fall asleep.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he can't. And he looks out the window and he sees Crookshanks the cat on the edge of the Forbidden Forest. And he also sees the Grim. So the big black dog comes out. And then they like walk side by side.
They're like,
the cat and the dog. They're like going together.
Uh-huh.
And he tries to call over Ron to see too, but Ron's like doesn't get out of bed. So that was like the other thing that happened.
And
I think that was it. I think that that covers most of what happened. So I think chapter 14 is like the most important. We learn a little bit about Snape. Oh wait, we forgot Snape's grudge.
What it actually was about. Yes.
So Snape's grudge is pretty important.
Yeah.
We learn that James Potter, Harry's father, saved Snape's life. Like we knew that previously. And that's the explanation that Dumbledore gave to Harry for why Snape hates him, essentially. Because Snape can't repay Harry's father or Harry or something. And it's kind of
which
a
is
bullshit.
like, always seemed really weird.
And Harry brings this up because Snape is like insulting him. He's insulting his father. And Harry brings it up. He's like, my dad saved your life. And then Snape's like,
ha 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 ha. That what you think? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yours is better. Your voice.
No, that was great.
Oh, thank you.
That was wonderful. But we learned that the only reason that James Potter saved Snape's life is because they were playing a prank. Like James Potter and his friends were playing a prank on Snape that would have killed him. And James stepped in at the last minute to stop the prank to save his own skin as well as Snape. So it's kind of not really...
You put him in this situation and then you saved his life.
Yeah.
Come on.
So, yeah. There's conflicting stories right now about what that's about.
That changes that a little bit.
Yeah. That was Snape's grudge. That was probably the most important.
Yep.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Okie dokie.
So in these series of chapters, they go and they see the Shrieking Shack. The Shrieking Shack. The Shrieking Shack.
Yeah.
And that's like a local legend around Hogsmeade and Hogwarts. It's the most haunted building in Britain, right? And that got me thinking about local legends from where you grew up or where you've lived, and where I've grown up and where I've lived. And I wanted to ask you about that. Do you have any good kind of local legend stories?
Let me think. The one that comes to mind is this house in, I grew up in Pensacola, but kind of like right next to it on the beach is a place called Gulf Breeze. And there was a house that looks like a spaceship. It's like a UFO house or whatever.
Cool.
And so like driving by it as kids, we would like point it out or look at it. It's, like this typical spaceship. It's also like up high, like there's like a structure underneath, and then like the spaceship house is like up like second story level or whatever, so you can like see it and look at it. Anyway, we always thought it was really cool. And then one time when we were kids, my parents like rented it out and we got to stay in it for like a night or two, just for fun. And it was like all decorated with like alien stuff inside, and I thought it was really cool.
Wow. That's in Pensacola?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
like on the beach along the Gulf.
That's cool. I would have loved that as a kid.
Yeah, it was fun.
There was, along those lines, this isn't where I grew up, but my family used to go to the Outer Banks every year for vacation to go to the beach. And there was always a UFO. I don't know if it exists anymore, but there's like this UFO that would always be along like a flying saucer type thing. That was along the road, like when you were getting down, you were in the Outer Banks. We were driving down to like kind of where we normally stay. And we'd see it every year. And it was a restaurant, actually. It was like a
cool.
alien themed restaurant. And one time I remember we actually stopped and went into the restaurant when it was open. And it was just like, there was some seats around. We got like pretty terrible food.
Yeah.
And then I think the restaurant closed, but I think the flying saucer thing is still there. That kind of reminded me of it.
Well, I don't know. Outer Banks seems like a weird place for that.
It is, yeah. I don't know why it would be there.
Like, I think you kind of expect stuff like that, like out in like the desert and in Nevada. You see like a bunch of stuff when you're driving down the highway. I had heard something about Gulf Breeze. I think like now that I'm an adult, I think this is completely made up. But at the time, like whenever we were aware of that spaceship house, someone told me that it was because Gulf Breeze, Florida had the most UFO sightings in the country.
Really?
I think that's probably a lie, but that's what I was told at the time.
That's kind of cool though. I like that. I figured like since you grew up in Pensacola, like Pensacola is the first city in the US,
Yes,
right?
well, not a lot of people know this, but it was like, a part of our history is that even though St. Augustine technically has the title of first city in America, Pensacola was established first, but it was wiped out by a hurricane. So it hasn't been like a continuous city. So St. Augustine gets that credit. But a tiny sense of pride, I forgot about that, was that Pensacola was the first establishment in America.
Well, I figured since that's the case, there's like probably a tons of like kind of local legend stories or something. And like, because it's such a historic place.
It is very historic. I mean, we had a cool lighthouse that was like haunted, but like all lighthouses are haunted. So I don't know that really counts. We had some cool forts I used to like to visit. I don't know a lot of legends like specifically associated with that though. I should look into it.
I grew up in Maryland, and there's a couple of things that I think about relating to local legends. First is something called the Snallygaster, which is like it's a cryptid. So it's a made up mystical animal kind of monster type thing, like Loch Ness Monster, like Bigfoot. This is like the local one for Maryland and for where I grew up, kind of specifically, kind of like the Frederick and west of Frederick area. I think it's a bird. It's a half bird, half reptile. Wait, I don't know. It's a creature that used to exist in and would eat like people's crops and eat their like dogs and cats and stuff.
Used to exist for real or for legend?
No, the legend. It was like last sighted in like 1908 or something.
Gotcha.
And it was just kind of like a cryptid that would wander through the woods, and people would swear they saw it, kind of that thing.
Cool.
The other...
Did you ever look for it?
No. I honestly, like, I heard about it, but no.
It wasn't like a thing you'd go like camp out and try to find.
I'd probably like want to avoid it when I was a kid. I'd be like, I don't want to see some weird creature wandering around. The other thing is, you've seen the movie The Blair Witch Project?
Sort of.
You've heard of it at least?
Yeah.
That movie was filmed in Maryland, specifically in a place called Burkittsville. And because of that, like, it's not real, obviously, but because of that, growing up, that kind of was instilled in me, and like I've never
I was
seen
gonna
the
say,
Blair
did
Witch
you
Project,
watch it?
but I know it's about a witch in the woods, and that took place in or at least it was filmed in like one of the weirdest places in Maryland, and like deep
Yeah.
in the woods in Burkittsville, Maryland.
That's interesting. I don't know if you remember, but I worked with the director of that movie,
Oh,
of the Blair
right.
Witch Project. I designed a movie for him that we filmed out in California and a little bit in Florida called Skyman that is about aliens and UFOs. So it all comes full circle.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, are you ready for predictions?
Yeah.
Okay. For those of you who are just joining, this is how predictions work. Becki is going to make predictions for what's happening in the next 3 chapters. So chapters 16, 17, and 18. And I'm going to give her some information to help her ground her predictions. I'm going to tell her the names of those 3 chapters. I'm going to tell her the major characters in those 3 chapters. I'm going to tell her the major locations in those 3 chapters. And then I'm going to give her like little tidbits of information, little curios, anything that happens within those chapters that's important for her to know, that's going to help her kind of connect her predictions together. That's the information that I'm going to give her. Everything else is up to her. She hasn't read any of this. She doesn't know what's going to happen. She's just making it up as she goes based on what she's already read. Here's the information. Chapter 16 is called Trelawney's Prediction. Chapter 17 is called Cat, Rat, and Dog. And chapter 18 is called Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs. The major characters are Harry, Ron, and Hermione, Hagrid and Buckbeak, Cornelius Fudge, the Executioner, Trelawney, Professor Dumbledore, Scabbers the Rat, Crookshanks the Cat, the Big Black Dog, Sirius Black, Lupin, Peter Pettigrew, and Snape. The main locations are all the classes. All of the classes come in. The divination classroom specifically is important. Hagrid's hut, the tunnel under the Whomping Willow, and the Shrieking Shack. And then important tidbits of information, important curios. All the classes come into play because there are exams for every class. And then there is the confrontation with Sirius Black. Got it?
Got it.
All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Take it away.
Generally, they're not even in this chapter, but I've just been feeling like Fred and George are like up to no good.
They're never up to good.
I guess, but they're really putting it in the forefront in this book, you know? So I'm suspicious of them. Anyway, they're not in these chapters. Maybe they are, but they're not main people in these chapters. Okay, so first we have Professor Trelawney's prediction. So I think it's like exam week, right? So everyone's really stressed out. They've already said they've never had so much homework. Hermione's probably really stressed because she has like double the classes they have. But everything is going to come together because the executioner is going to show up to execute Buckbeak, and it's going to be really stressful and sad for everyone and Hermione. And I guess Cornelius Fudge is there because he's the minister of magic, and maybe Buckbeak is, since Buckbeak's like a magical creature, maybe that counts as a magical object, although I feel like that should be a separate thing. But whatever. Cornelius Fudge shows up to oversee the execution, and Buckbeak is about to be executed. But I think that Professor Trelawney is going to predict something that saves him at the last minute, and he doesn't get executed. They can't execute Buckbeak. Just like Scabbers isn't dead, Buckbeak's not going to die. No one dies. No animals die in this book. Maybe. So that happens. Hermione's like on the verge of a mental breakdown. We already know that. That's going to happen. And then we have chapter 17, the cat, the rat, and the dog. Okay. I have been trying to put this whole animal thing together for a while, but I'm just going to kind of come out and say that I think these animals, Scabbers, Crookshanks, the big black dog / the Grim, and Sirius Black are all one and the same. Yeah, I said it. You heard it here first. They're all the same. Maybe not Scabbers. Scabbers, maybe not so much, but Crookshanks, big black dog, Sirius Black, all the same or all possessed by the same something. They're all possessed by Voldemort. I don't know, but they're all connected. There's a reason there's so many animal things in this book, and it's pointing us to the fact that like these creatures are all connected. So maybe Crookshanks is the one that slashed the portrait of the fat lady, and maybe they're all kind of doing different things, but they're all the same. That's what I'm predicting. So Harry and Ron hear about something in the Shrieking Shack that's going to help them. And they're like, maybe they hear something that's going to like unlock the key to Sirius Black. And they're like, okay, well, we have to take the tunnel, but we can't take the tunnel that Harry's been taking because now Snape knows about it. So they decide to take the tunnel under the Whomping Willow, which is super dangerous, right? We already know that the Whomping Willow can like crush a car or splinter a broomstick, but they have to take it, and it's dangerous and it's scary. But they do it, and they get to Hogsmeade, and they go to the Shrieking Shack. That is really hard to say.
Yeah.
Shrieking Shack, where surprisingly Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs are. Kind of thought they were dead, but maybe their ghosts haunt there or something. They're the people that made the Marauders map, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're tricksy people. They're up to no good too, right?
I don't know.
You do. So they go there to confront them. Maybe that's why they go to the Shrieking Shack, to seek them out. Somehow Lupin and Peter Pettigrew are involved or are there. Peter Pettigrew's the one that they found out was like following Harry's parents around, right?
Peter Pettigrew was like friends with James Potter, but he's the one that supposedly killed or captured or found Sirius Black, and then Sirius killed him, remember?
Ooh, yeah.
Sirius killed him along with like a bunch of muggles.
Yeah. Yeah, But didn't they like not find his body or something? It was just like a robe, like a bloody robe.
And a finger.
Kind of like the bloody sheet with no rat. Anyway, Lupin's there because he follows the kids. We find out Peter Pettigrew is alive and hanging out in the Shrieking Shack. And then we finally actually see Sirius Black for the first time. Maybe he's talking to Peter Pettigrew in the shack. And the kids see it and they confront him. And Snape is there too, I guess, because he's the last person that I haven't placed anywhere. Lupin, Snape, and Peter, all there.
In the Shrieking Shack.
In the Shrieking Shack. Yeah. It's a party.
And they all get there, and that's when those chapters end?
Well, they are there, and the kids like overhear another whole adult conversation because they're sneaky and small.
What's the conversation about?
Voldemort.
There hasn't been a lot of Voldemort.
I know. That's why I'm like, we gotta bring him back in because Harry's gonna have to battle him at the end, somewhere miles underneath the school. So better start pulling this together. All right, that's all. That's all I got.
Thanks for those predictions, Becki. You know what I remembered when you were doing that?
What?
Is we forgot to mention the part where Hermione slaps the shit out of Malfoy. Remember that?
Yeah, that's pretty great.
When Malfoy's like bad-mouthing Hagrid and Hermione just goes up and slaps him. I forgot to mention that. Anyway, we're going to go now. We're going to read those 3 chapters and we'll be back next week to talk about whether Becki was right, wrong, and discuss in detail what's going on. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. We've been having a great time. We're going to try and finish this up hopefully by the end of the year. It might be a little bit after that because life gets in the way. We have a website called amugglesguide.com. We also have Instagram, Twitter. Follow us if you want to stay on top of what's going on. And share this with your friends or family. Rate us 5 stars. We really appreciate you getting the word out about our podcast. Thanks so much, and we will catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.